And the last time I worked on this phone was a while ago, and in the meantime I've been busy with other stuff because I didn't really know what to do with these plastic rivet kind of things. They're not really rivets, I think, but they are I presume they are attached to the top part of this assembly, and then heat melted or just melted to form a sort of rivet bond. This part is made out of two smaller parts, and I'm gonna try melting those rivets again and see if I can pry it open carefully. This is a old tip, soldering iron tip. I've already got some new ones, and I didn't really like this one anyway, so I'll use it on this phone. Put the plastic in stick vise, and my soldering iron. Set it at go above 200 degrees Celsius. Plastic is melting. The feeler gauge is doing the thing. This part isn't square, so it's not easy to hold in a vise. This is the first time I'm trying to unsolder plastic. The first one gave way. You can see it's closed, and this one is open. And there's this hook. I don't know if it's grabbing the top part or just for locating it. I'll have to see. Might even try a bit lower temperature. I don't know if it's accurate anyway, so I only use it as an indication of the temperature I want. This one should have opened up, but it won't. The other ones I could use in heating twice, and it opens up. Let me get it a little bit closer. Still one in the middle, the far end. I decided to unmelt these, partly because I recently did a project in which I tried some gluing of ABS plastic, and it seemed to make a good joint under certain conditions. So I'm planning to glue this back up using that technique. Maybe overheating this one, or over melting even. This is a protective pad for a directional button. I'm gonna remove this one. corner to the left. Right under this sticker. There's a little bit of glue on here. Or it's some kind of film. Right. So here we have a single layer of flexible circuit. Some sort of silicone rubber mat with contacts, which press against these circuits, and they form a connection. This is I don't know if I can focus. Maybe like this. I think I can remove the bits of molten plastic if I want, or some I can just leave like this. It will probably fit back together. This is the top of the bottom part, which is just a solid base for the contacts. Now there's something in here. I think it's the microphone. There's a baby next door. I hope I don't make too much noise. Right, now I have to find out what's causing the problem with the 3. So I'm gonna do some measurements. I'll do them off camera. my last project with the keyboard, I thought about scanning one of those flexible circuit boards just with a scanner and loading it up in a computer to see if you can do some line tracing with it. I've scanned it. I will scan the backside in a minute, and then I'll try to do some editing on the scans. So I've put them side by side. Maybe I can do this. It will create quite a hefty file, but now it might be easier to get some pixels from the lines. Let's just pick a color. Let's see. Basic one, tolerance. It's making a contact here where there isn't, because there's a layer underneath, which is also a dark color, and the tolerance is set too high. Right. Let's paint this red. Let's put this all the way up. Right. It was not supposed to happen. So we can follow this wire all the way. There's a via here where it disappears on the bottom layer, which is mirrored, so it's this one. Tracks. Here the colors are quite similar, top and bottom layer, so it might be a bit harder to use automated tools. here the selection area bigger than it should be. Wait, this one has a line tool. This is paint.net 4.06. Oh, making a nice bendy line. Solid line, flat. Okay. I'll just make a new one. Let's see. Mentioned a project with keyboard, and the type of conductive layer was a bit different than on this flexible circuit. This one might be a bit more delicate and prone to scratching. Now I just did this as a test. I will now continue to fill the most of the circuits with colors. So I traced everything. Didn't take too long. I don't know how long exactly, but I can find out if I zoom out a bit, or by the dates from the video files. These are the traces for the contacts. It's a dual layer board. There's contacts on one side and covered contacts on the other side with vias. And now I know what I need to check if I want to fix the numbers. I've got this number 3 button, which is orange, connects with number 4. And 2 other buttons, which I don't remember. And it is the 6th layer from the left hand side. If I look at it this way. Well, this wasn't too hard, and now I can look it up if I have more troubles with buttons. Maybe I won't be able to get the top back on one go. Maybe not all buttons will be functioning, so I can always use this later. I saved it, and maybe someone else can use it too. So. I remembered I had a few of these displays. They come with a flexible connector. It's a 14-pin connector. They also came with a set of connectors to solder on the board and adapter boards. So I put this testing connector together. It fits the flexible circuit from the phone. This one has 12 pins, this one 14, but that's not a problem. You can just fit it in here. And I also remembered I had to fix the wire for the speaker, and since I'm soldering, I might as well do that now. These wires are sometimes a bit hard to strip. I'm trying now with a scalpel. I don't want to have to remove any more wire than is really necessary. I replaced the tip of my soldering iron. Tweezers don't close. I'm not sure if the end is tint. But soldering was the problem, so should be okay. Sometimes there's a little bit of coating on the wires. That's sometimes a problem when you try to solder stuff like headphone wires and such. Then I'm gonna do some testing. I put all the parts together. It's not fixed or anything like that. And the problem was the 3 button. If I find the 2 leads it's connected to, and let's see, number 6 and number 10. Six. And 10. Then I'm getting a connection now. There's 2 leads for every button, and every lead has multiple buttons, so there's some kind of matrix. For example, button number 6 also has number 4. And if I check the other lead for number 4, that's pin number 11. Then I can also measure its connectivity. There is some resistance in the lines. I think it's got something to do with the type of conductive layer they use. Normally I would use another function of this multimeter. Just beep connections, but due to the high resistance I couldn't do that. Now I will test all the connections, and one other thing is that I will clean up these molten bits around the spots where the rivets were, and maybe on this side also. Then I will see what I can do with these 2 parts, how I can get them back together. I'd listed the buttons for the connections, but not the other way around, so I did that. It makes it easier to check. And you can see that every button has 2 leads, and these leads form a kind of matrix. There are, like here, there are 4, 5 data lines, and button 1 is over here, button 2 is over here, and there doesn't have to be any logic in it. But what happens is that the phone's electronics check if there is a connection with line 8. It checks the 6 or the 7. If there is a connection, then checks the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and so on and so on. Only the power button is separated. It's to used to save energy. If the power button isn't pressed, then the checking can be done at a much lower rate, so that saves a lot of energy. The scanning is constant and very fast usually. It's called multiplexing. That's how most button panels and remote controls and that kind of stuff works. Also keyboards. And usually a lot of stuff with a lot of buttons. Now let's check the buttons. I will start with pin 10. This one. And pin 7. This should be button 1. If it says 0 bleed or something like that, then there's no connection, and now it's measuring resistance. Then there is a connection. That's lead 7. I'll go to 6. Number 3. Five is number 5. Four is number 7. switch to line 11 on this side. We're on pin 4. This is number 8. Six. Four. All these top buttons work. And the only problem with this phone was the number 3. It would be weird if one of the connections was broken, actually, because if only one number has a problem, then it might not be an electrical problem, because if one of the leads was broken on the 3, then there might have also been problems on the 4, the R, speaker and int, or on 1, 5 and 7. And I checked here, there's only a very tiny piece where the 3 is not connected to the other lines, and that seems to be okay. So now I think I'll just try to put the parts back together. I brought some tools. I've got some old files, they're not really good anymore, but I've got one which was quite dull. The tip was also damaged. Let's see if it can focus. I've ground a lathe type cutting edge on it, and the steel they make files out of. It's quite hard, so you can use this stuff for other things, like making chisels for wood carving. But I've made this knife out of it. I don't know if it's gonna work, but maybe. I think it has a chance to work, so I'm gonna try it now. If you want to try if one of these edges is sharp, you can try it on a nail, and you should be able to make a curl. My goal here is to make the top surface flat, remove any bits that were left sticking up by the heating and the separating of the parts. Can't reach in here with a file anyway, so this tool might be quite handy for this. Don't really know what the best cutting edges are for the different materials, but I know how to grind lathe tools, the edges. So I just use that. And since I think normal chisel would carve in too much, I use this one instead of a very sharp flat point, which this kind of angle. I think this works quite well. Let's see, my camera display is mirrored, so that's sometimes a bit weird. I can just move the... Where is it? Here. I can just move the scraper along the edge. Decided to remove all the parts that are sticking out from the top, the rivet type of pieces. I'll leave the bottom two on for so I can locate the proper position. So this works quite nice. Yeah, I think I like this tool. I'll definitely be using it more often for this kind of stuff. And next thing I'll do is scrape off a bit of this edge, just to rough up the surface. Not trying to remove a lot of material, but the current surface is nice and shiny. I want a bit of a rough surface for gluing. I decided to glue the parts together because I can try drilling out these holes and put tiny rivets in it. The rivets used for making vias in double-sided circuit boards or something. But everything I do on the top side is visible when you use the phone, so that's not an option. So it will be gluing, and I hope it will work in one go. Now I have to be careful. Just checking which parts are visible, which aren't. So, this seems to be a nice angle to use the tool for scraping. I just want to check one thing. I missed this one. I didn't notice it. There's a pin here, which I won't remove them because I hope I can glue them where they are right now. That will pull the center of this piece of plastic in, so it won't lift out like this. There was one over here too. melt and close this hole a bit. Right, now it's time for gluing these parts together. Maybe just a tiny bit of scraping on this edge. Just to make the surface a bit rougher, to get a bit more contact area for glue. Model making glue. I hope it's not clogged. It isn't. I really don't like using glue. Mainly because I haven't had much success with it in the past. Like the plastic model making, I wasn't very good at that. I think it has to dry at the air for a bit. It doesn't say how to use it. To be careful on this side. Remove the glue. There's a piece of rubber over here, which I think covers the microphone. There's a lot of indentations on both sides to locate the rubber button mat. It's better to start from this side. I can push the parts up against these two bits. Now I know this connector has to go on the left side, because here on the top there's the part with the interlocking circuits, traces, where the buttons are pressed by this stuff. clamp it better in a second. Putting a bit of glue in here. These were the locating pins. No, I'm wrong. These are the locating pins. Gonna get some more clamps quickly. Well, this should do it. I hope it works. Just have to wait now.